Imagine a port so huge it could change the way the world trades. Think of a deep water fortress carved into the Peruvian coast, designed to handle ships so large they can't fit through the Panama Canal. This is Chancay. It's not an American project. It's not a local one. It is the crown jewel of a Chinese concrete empire rising in what Washington has, for 2 centuries, called its backyard. In 1823, President James Monroe told the world that the Western Hemisphere was America's sphere of influence. In 2026, that law is a ghost. Walk through this port in Peru today, and you'll see something Washington never anticipated. Chinese cranes, Chinese ships, Chinese capital. This is Pacific Gateway that bypasses the United States entirely. China isn't coming with a military invasion. They're coming with a checkbook, a 5G blueprint, and a plan to build an alternative world order right under Washington's nose. In the 20th century, power was about who had the biggest tanks. In 2026, power is about who owns the flows. China's involvement in Latin America has evolved beyond simple road and bridge projects. Beijing's new strategy focuses on what they call new infrastructure: 5G networks, AI-driven smart cities, electric vehicles, renewable energy, and space stations in the Argentine desert. In the last few years, 60% of Chinese investment here has shifted into high-tech innovation hubs. Look at the numbers. In 2000, China-Latin America trade barely reached $10 billion. By 2024, that figure hit $518 billion. As a result, China now trades more with Brazil than the United States does. If you build the network, you set the rules. If a Chilean startup or a Brazilian bank runs on Chinese servers, their digital future belongs to Beijing. This is the Pentagon's nightmare. The Pentagon calls this dual use. A port that handles grain today can handle a destroyer tomorrow. A space station that tracks stars today can track American satellites tonight. Nowhere is this struggle more cinematic than in Argentina. When President Javier Milei took office, he promised to stop dealing with communists. He wanted to chain Argentina's destiny to the US and Israel. But reality hits fast. You can't eat ideology. Argentina is drowning in debt, and the economy was in free fall. The only hand reaching out is China. To keep his economy from total collapse, the man who campaigned on cutting ties with Beijing renewed a $5 billion currency swap with China. Look at the Kirchner-Cepernic dams. These are some of China's most ambitious projects outside its own borders. This project has been frozen since late 2023. Thousands are out of work. If Argentina walks out of this project, it could trigger the collapse of financing for other critical infrastructure. The potential bill could be over $30 billion in immediate debt. It's the ultimate geopolitical checkmate. If you want to understand why Washington suddenly panicked, look at the Lithium Triangle. Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia hold half of the world's supply of the one thing the 21st century cannot live without: lithium. If oil defined the geopolitics of the 20th century, lithium defines the 21st. Every electric vehicle's battery, every smartphone, and every green energy grid depends on this white dust. Right now, China imports 98% of its lithium carbonate from Latin America. They aren't just buying the resources, they own the supply chain. The US, meanwhile, is trying to catch up. They're offering tax breaks and incentives to get these minerals processed in friendly countries. But for Latin America, it's a minerals trilemma. Do they sell to the highest bidder, which is China, the safest ally, which is the US, or do they try to build their own industry and tell both superpowers to wait in line? Then there is the giant, Brazil. Under President Lula, this regional giant refuses to take sides. They call it active non-alignment. China is Brazil's largest trading partner by far, a relationship worth $170 billion. That's more than double their trade with the US. China buys Brazilian soybeans, iron ore, and beef. Brazil gets investments in infrastructure and technology partnerships in return. But while Lula visits Beijing to talk trade, he doesn't abandon the US at all. He visits Washington to talk about democracy and security. Brazil has done something brilliant. They refused to join the Belt and Road Initiative. Why? Because as soon as you sign that paper, you've picked a side. Instead, they propose synergy. They want Chinese money on Brazilian terms. By hosting the G20 and BRICS, Brazil is signaling that it isn't a backyard anymore. They are the front yard of a new multipolar world. The US is responding with a security-first approach. We see the return of the Monroe Doctrine, but this time it's militarized. The Pentagon is sounding the alarm on malign influence. But for the average person in Peru or Argentina, malign influence looks a lot like a new bridge, a faster internet connection, and a job. The Beijing consensus, the idea that you can have economic growth without Western-style democracy, is winning. Over half of the people in the region say they trade democratic principles for stability. This is the heart of Cold War 2.0. Washington is fighting to protect a sphere of influence. Beijing is fighting to build a sphere of integration. And the people living in between, they aren't interested in being someone's backyard anymore. They're interested in being the masters of their own house. So, the question isn't whether the US or China wins Latin America. The question is, can the US offer a partnership that's more than just a warning? What do you think? Is it possible for these nations to stay neutral, or will the gravity of the superpowers eventually pull them into a collision course? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives.